And at 10, Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie, while being canon in the main series, has only been showed in 8-bit cutscenes. It very well could have just been an animatronic too. But looking up Spring Bonnie on Google Images actually is pretty creepy for something that's only been in 8-bit and supposed to not be scary, since it's just an animatronic with an exoskeleton, or exosuit. For some reason, I find this more unsettling than the normal Springtrap. Maybe because I've been looking at normal Springtrap for so long that I've just gotten used to it? I don't know. The look of the completed and pristine Springtrap just puts me on edge for some reason. Maybe it's Maybelline, maybe it's because I think I'll be the next victim. Either way, Spring Bonnie is scary. I was gonna make a joke like Spring Bonnie is spring scary, but it didn't work. I don't know why I thought of it. And a 9, Draw Kill. This Springtrap was drawn in the style of Draw Kill. At least that's what the image said. I was unable to find the original author since the 3 versions of this that showed up were small and Pinterest links that didn't give any credit, so that's unfortunate. But this thing sets me on edge. And not only this, but searching Draw Kill Springtrap on Google will get you a load of monstrosities that will haunt your nightmares for the next few weeks. I'm not quite sure what it is about this animatronic that makes it so creepy. I just know that it's creeping the hell out of me. Why does this misfortune continue? And at 8, Toy Springtrap. Toy Springtrap is what it sounds like. Springtrap in the form of Toy Bonnie instead of Golden Bonnie. Well, actually, Golden Toy Bonnie. This is creepy as hell. Can you imagine being stuck inside a toy animatronic? Like, obviously I'd like to be stuck inside Toy Chica, but not for so long that the parts of plastic start coming apart and deteriorating and my flesh starts melting and rotting away. Yeah, I don't like the thought of that, and yet here we are with Toy Springtrap and it hurts my feelings. Like on a deep level. Like, at least they didn't do this to Chica, otherwise I think I would be crying on camera, and the editors would leave it in because they like to watch me suffer, just like the rest of you do. And at 7, Scorched Springtrap. Scorched Springtrap is different than its canon counterpart from FNAF AR. Scorched Springtrap in essence looks like a phantom version of Springtrap, like as if it was a hallucination in FNAF 3. Basically a burnt version of Springtrap after the fire of Fazbear Frights. Speaking of which, it looks like they just showed up across the street because there's fire trucks over there. But I'm sure you're seeing it, so you know what I mean. Sure, normal Springtrap is pretty spooky, but this guy just takes it one step further and really messes with your head. It's ironic given how you can actually see Springtrap on multiple cameras in FNAF 3 as another hallucination. So Scorched Springtrap looking like a phantom makes sense. And at 6, Nightmare Springtrap. We all love the nightmare animatronics. They're some of the scariest things in the games that we've seen. But Springtrap was missing from the bunch, obviously, since this would have been before Springtrap was a thing, at least in the timeline-wise. And William caused the hallucinations anyway. But the fan versions of Nightmare Springtrap are some horrific With the famous stomach mouth and razor-sharp munchers, this guy will eat your arm and left testicle for breakfast and then come back for seconds, and then will finish you off for lunch, then regurgitate you again come dinner. But you're also forced to deal with this cycle every day, and it's still you every day. You just somehow come back to life so he can eat you again. I don't know where this analogy came from, like, I'm not okay. FNAF has actually broken me. Halfway through into number 5, Final Nights. 2 words. Kill me. I don't want to deal with this thing, so if I'm ever in a situation where I come into contact with this thing, be it virtual or in the real world somehow, I'm going to tell it to kill me. Because no. Just no. This thing is horrifying, and there's only one real image of it. The suit over the exoskeleton is even more torn and tattered, and the glowing dots for eyes make it not any better. My pants are now the color of this animatronic because of it. How does William even have glowing dots for eyes? Like, shouldn't he just have normal eyes? Because he's still human. I'm so confused. Look, this thing could find me in broad daylight with a million people around it and be frozen still, and I still wouldn't mess with it. This thing looks crazy. Why is Final Nights so goddamn terrifying? It scares me with the Reaper puppet, and it scares me with its version of Springtrap. I don't know if it's just an Easter egg or an actual antagonist, but I don't plan on sticking around to find out. And at 4, Springtrap Endo. What would Springtrap look like without an exosuit? Without the stuff that actually makes him look like Springtrap. A monster comprised of human flesh and gore and some metal thrown in. Yeah, Springtrap Endo is the endoskeleton of Springtrap with William Afton still connected. Not only does that sound painful as hell, it looks like it. But this thing is so bloody, honestly, a lot of it may be black and white, or something like that. We may not be allowed to show it on YouTube. Well, we probably could show it, but we may get in trouble for doing so. So, watch at your own risk there. YouTube, I said it. Are we okay? Are we good? Getting close to the end in number 3, Daylight Springtrap. Daylight Springtrap is a version of Springtrap fan-made as a proposition for Dead by Daylight, a popular multiplayer survival horror where you play as either one of the survivors or the killer. The killer has options between the look and class of the killer, and this creation was a proposition for the game to add a Springtrap character, which would require a load of licensing fees, but we'll pretend like it would be possible. This thing would scare the living hell out of me in either game. It's just horrific. Just the horrific nature of these creations makes me sick to my stomach. There are multiple versions of this animatronic, and they all just make me feel like I'm going to suffer. Some may say just to add the normal Springtrap animatronic, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Would you like to see a Springtrap killer in Dead by Daylight? And if you did, would you want a unique design or the original Springtrap that we all know and love? Be sure you let me know in the comments. Penultimately, in at number 2, Ignited Springtrap. Ignited Springtrap comes to us from the wonderfully horrific and terrifying world of the Joy of Creation. Ignited Springtrap is what I feel like Springtrap would have been. With no jaw and his horrifying demeanor overall, this guy will make you bricks. I'm not even sorry about the swearing because this one was necessary. Normal Springtrap is bad enough, but crank it up to an 11 and then throw it into the real world and then all of a sudden you get this thing. And if you're unaware, the premise of Joy of Creation is that you play as Scott Cawthon and the animatronics are coming after you in our world. Hence the name Joy of Creation. But we will also be getting a new and improved version of this character thanks to the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. Thanks, Scott. Just makes everything more terrifying. Hooray! Finally, in at number 1, Garvey. Garvey is the penultimate antagonist in Dormitibus. As a human, he was a man who murdered the missing children. He later went on to get trapped in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap, and then was burned to a permanent death in the Fazbear Frights fire. Garvey is a extremely grotesque version of Springtrap. The suit on his limbs and body are heavily tattered and shredded, and his organic remains are far more visible than they are for the normal Springtrap. His lower jaw is deformed and broken, which disappears on at least one occasion, showing Garvey's corpse, mouth, and jaw. Cause you know, why the hell not? And Garvey now has an unnatural animalistic stance, walking in all 4 limbs like a spider. His limbs also appear to be snapped in multiple places, alluding to the limbs being bent in unnatural ways, and the fact that his left hand serves as a foot and his left foot serves as a hand? What? He is also much bigger than Springtrap, or any other threat in the game. They were also named before the William Afton name reveal, I'm pretty sure, so this is just a random messed up dude, in at least Dormitibus lore. Yeah, no thank you, not anymore, no. Go away.
Number 10, Animated Scraptrap. Not even an animated or cartoon version of Scraptrap can redeem Scraptrap's overall horrific image. Even when you try to make Scraptrap cute, he remains one of the most terrifying animatronics around. This version of Scraptrap and Springtrap is sometimes made to look a little less monstrous, given a shorter stature, is made cuter, and given less malicious expressions. But then there is still a very evident dark side that shines through. I mean, just look at this grin here. Springtrap, even when animated, is still always up to something, and should basically never be trusted. Nor should Scraptrap. Number 9, Electric Scraptrap. Electric Scraptrap just sounds like a horrifying idea. Any animatronic just sounds awful, to be honest, because if the animatronics were electric, they could then harm you at range, and being near them wouldn't just mean you'd get jump scared, but also mean you could get shocked to death. Or possibly, I suppose, shocked to life? If you suffered a heart attack from the jump scare, actually maybe the electric shock would restart your heart. Wait, but then you'd be stuck in an endless loop of death with the animatronics jump scaring you and then reviving you on repeat, possibly forever. So never mind, still not so great and pretty scary overall. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more fan alternate FNAF lists, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Every time you thumbs up a video, a new fan alternate comes into being. Some fan somewhere is like, I gotta draw this idea. Number 8, Fixed Springtrap / Scraptrap. Fixed Scraptrap doesn't sound scary at first, and then you see what some fans have done with this design. The eyes for many versions that I've looked at is what makes this fan-made alternate so unsettling for me. The fact that everything on this animatronic looks put together and almost brand new, save for the fact that you can still kind of tell there is someone in the suit, and someone who might not be doing well, and is likely still dead. The contrast of that clean suit with those manic eyes is pretty much what haunts me here. Something very unhinged about this version. Number 7, Expectation Scraptrap. Scraptrap. This is a design that was shared with the idea in mind of what Springtrap should or could look like once he became Scraptrap. It was shared on Reddit and shows Scraptrap reimagined as being patched up with various different parts and bits from other animatronics, fully formed as opposed to being quite so tattered and broken. Well, still tattered I suppose, but just with less pieces missing overall, just also a little more put together looking in my opinion. Expectation Scraptrap to me is a lot more colorful, which reduces some of the scare factor, but this version of Scraptrap is also more functional, which is pretty scary. And I think it makes sense that Scraptrap would patch themselves up with like actual animatronic pieces that we might recognize, considering whose corpse is also inside here, and therefore who the pilot behind that animatronic really is. You'd think you see some reflection with, like, you know, maybe some other animatronic pieces that we've seen before that this person may have also made, you know what I mean? Number 6. Peekaboo Scraptrap. I like to call this one Peekaboo Scraptrap just for the way this redesign looks. The main difference between this version of the character and the original one from the games is that we can more easily see William Afton's head here, or what's left of it at least. The new head on this version has the original animatronic head sitting more back and up, as though the top of the head was pulled up and away from the bottom half, the jaw. The top part of the animatronic head kind of rests on top of, well, I guess whatever is left of William Afton's head inside the suit, kind of like when you put sunglasses on top of your head for easy access and safekeeping when you no longer want to be wearing them on your face. The result is a very eerie face that we get to see, still shrouded in darkness, peering out at us from inside the gaping hole where the animatronic's mouth is open wide. This specific fan-made redesign that I'm talking about here was shared by Atlas Zodiac on Reddit. You should check it out because it's pretty creepy and pretty great. Number 5. Springtrap After the Fire. This fan-made alternate version allows one to imagine what it would be like to gaze upon Springtrap after he's already been melted by the flames and forever altered. Mostly he looks kind of distorted and goopy here. Overall, just not pleasant to gaze upon or spy lurking in the shadows behind you. Springtrap After the Fire often has more organs exposed, or in some cases has no outer suit left at all. Some fan-made takes on this version also show that the corpse beneath has lost its eyes, with them supposedly melting away in the flames, while other versions show the eyes as somewhat malformed due to the heat, becoming somehow, I guess, partially melted. Alternatively, one fan reimagined this version of Springtrap as just a pile of ashes with eyes and an arm sticking out. Seems pretty accurate. Number 4. Burned Scraptrap. Typically the Burned Scraptrap fan-made version reveals to us a version of this animatronic who has less limbs and less of a suit left. The skeleton beneath the corpses and organs is revealed in some parts, prominently the skull. One take has the entire upper head of the suit missing, with little stumps of wire where the ears would be. Imagine being burnt in a suit with metal ears on it. It would not be pleasant at all. And it would probably be very hot on your head as that metal started to heat up. I'm like imagining what it would be like, and it's already like just painful to me. I'm surprised we don't see more burned versions of Scraptrap with melted brains actually oozing out of the nose holes. Going into a fire, it seems like a goopy or boiled brain would be a very real reality. Number 3. Hellfire Scraptrap. Possibly one of the scariest alternate versions of Scraptrap around when it comes to fan-made versions. This version of the killer animatronic possesses an even sharper bone shank, and looks like it's partially melted, with the outer part of the suit looking like it has melded or completely melted with the corpse of William Afton beneath it. Basically, this version of Scraptrap looks like it has returned from hell after being placed into its otherworldly blazing fires, which could very well be the story of what happened in this scenario, just based on the fan-made animatronic's appearance. This version of Scraptrap also only seems to have one eye left remaining. One eye left. The depth perception must be really not great for that version of Scraptrap. Number 2. Ignited Springtrap. All that remains seemingly of this version of Springtrap is his skeleton. Ignited Springtrap seems almost chalky when it comes to his look, being that he is mostly just bits of burnt flesh and suit and exposed brittle bones. The one plus about this scary fan-made version, if you had to face it, is that you would probably find it pretty easy to defeat because it's just a walking skeleton, which means it probably wouldn't be that strong as it has no muscles left. At least that's how I always imagine fighting skeletons in real life. life, but then again, being just bones means that you're likely harder to hit with a ranged attack as you have less mass, so I guess there are pros and cons to taking on skeletal enemies like Ignited Springtrap. Number 1. Scorched Scraptrap / Springtrap. Yeah, there are lots of different versions that like to reimagine Springtrap or Scraptrap as being pretty heavily burnt. Scorched Scraptrap is no exception. This fan-made fire-based version of the animatronic, however, I think is one of the scariest. Why? Because it reimagines the animatronic as something that is a little less human-like in appearance to me. One fan-made version shows the Scorched version in half shadow, obstructing its facial features from clear view and making it appear more ominous. Other versions imagine Scorched Scraptrap as resembling the burned up ghost version that haunted us in FNAF 3 at the Fazbear's Fright attraction. Because obviously at that time Springtrap was around and was alive, so not a ghost. Just a corpse in a suit.